instead.
Ooh, if you're listening, Ryan, hop on. Another guy I think that you should be trading away right now due to his red hotness of recent red hotness. Wow, I get caught up. Due to his recent red hotness, you should be trying to trade away Aaron Jones. Listen, I know he can go for some big games, both through the air and on the ground, but he has the problem of inconsistent play calling. You never know when Jamal Williams is going to come on the field. And also, here is the rest of his season schedule. Next two games takes on the Carolina Panthers. Then they travel to San Fran to take on those 49ers. Have a decent matchup versus the Giants, another nice matchup versus the Redskins, but then you come back to play the Bears, and then you have in your championship game at Minnesota. So that's a pretty tough time to play Aaron Jones, in my opinion, when still has yet to really, it's not like a goal line back, third down back situation. I mean, they both seem to be splitting time evenly. I'm not saying snap percentage wise, but their roles can be the same. I mean, Williams can be in on the goal line, or he can be in there to catch a pass. Jones can be in there on the goal line, or I can be out there to catch a pass. Like, seems like you just never know. And he's the guy who's had big games. I think you can capitalize on that and trade him away. So what do you guys think? Would you be holding on to or looking to capitalize on Aaron Jones' value?
I
Capitalize on it.
I personally am looking to deal Aaron Jones at this point, and it's not. And honestly, when I thought about this, here's what it is with me. I feel like I have Green Bay's defense. I've got Aaron Rodgers. I've got Aaron Jones. I'm too one-team dependent. So I'm looking if somebody – and I'm actually at this point, when I look at it, I realize as I'm trying to deal Aaron Jones that he is – even though his position rank and his points per game are pretty solid, he has kind of got the potential of boom or bust. And it's really – like last week, I think he had 43 points for me, and this week he had like 3.9. He does, he can be consistent on overall on his average, but that's because he's got one big game, and that's why I think if you have him, I don't necessarily think I would trade him away. I just think you need to really watch what his matchup is and figure out whether or not, and that's why my gut feeling came when I was at church about putting him on my bench and putting in Montgomery, because it came to the realization that this has happened to me twice already this season with him coming off a big game, right? Okay, that's really what it was. But because of that, Dillon, he can't be traded straight up. You have to throw other players in with him, and you're probably only going to get a single player or maybe a premier player and a bench player that's really inconsistent in itself.
Well,
you're going to have to give up more with Aaron Jones. If, like what I'm trying to do, I already realize I've got to give up Aaron Jones. I've got to get up one of my guys that is pretty consistent as a receiver and probably something else to get back what I'm looking for in a wide receiver one, and maybe be able to get one bench guy that's playable through the playoffs or in an injury case because of the waiver wire being so kind of picked over at this point in the season, and going forward it's going to be getting tougher.
Well, I know you already have him, so it makes this question, kind of tough for you to answer. But let's say someone else owned a Nick Chubb, came to you, offered Chubb straight up for Aaron Jones. Would you take that?
Yes, because they've shown that already, that regardless of winning or losing or their situations, they feed the ball to Chubb. They did. I mean, just normally with Cleveland's situation, Chubb would lose his complete value. But they have already shown they are just, whatever it is, for whatever reason, they trust Nick Chubb. Like, he fumbled twice a couple weeks ago early in the game. Like, twice, and cost him, and they went down and and guess what? He still touched the ball, I think, 28 times in that game, and 22 of those touches came after he fumbled for the second time. So they've already proven that he might not score touchdowns, but I think he had 11.5 points for me this week. Last week he had, for me, I think it was in the 25 range there. He's pretty consistent. He's as a flex running back too. So, and Aaron Jones, to me, is too inconsistent right now to be a running back too. I think he's a really solid flex that every other week he can be running back one, running back two. But most of the time he's going to be a flex at this point. And I have him. So,
if you should be so lucky.
Yeah, I have him. So, I mean, that's saying a lot. I'm not being bullshitting here. I got both those guys, actually.
Dave, you said the same thing. You'd trade him away?
Who, Aaron Jones?
Yeah.
I would. He's on the high, and you'd be able to get a lot of dividends back for him. Um, but I was going to ask something real quick. Did you want to hear and see if I made a good trade with Mr. Molstad or no?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go into here. All right. The pending move waiting on Ryan's thing is I asked about Josh Jacobs.
Okay.
But I'm willing to give up Cortland
JJ,
Sutton.
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton, Sony Michelle, Terry McLaurin. So you're getting back 2 wide receivers. Cortland's looking hot.
That's crap. Jacobs has proven to be a back. That's like what I offered you, essentially.
No. Cortland Sutton's the number one wide receiver.
Not with the quarterback he's got.
Didn't they just win and Cortland Sutton had a game with Brandon Allen?
Oh, really? You're going to tell me that going forward after they put that on tape that's going to be every week with him compared to Josh Jacobs? Dude, Josh Jacobs is a top 2 running back in this league.
Dillon, I think he's just mad because I didn't accept his trade.
That could be part of it, right?
Terry McLaurin's number 1 wide receiver in Washington. And Sony Michel is obviously one of the main backs in New England, and he's a touchdown getter. So I figured there's value there. There's 2 wide receiver ones in their offenses. I feel like Terry is going to become more valuable down the road no matter who he's with.
Well, here's your problem. Ryan already has Devontae Adams and Chris Godwin on his team, so I don't think he's going to be in the market for a receiver, to be honest.
More flex options, number 1 flex options on those.
I mean, he's flexing OBJ. It's just
the dropping passes.
I know. I think it's going to be a tough sell, but straight up, I think Michelle has been just. People know by now what he is. If you got to play the matchups with him, he could be very disappointing. Whereas Josh Jacobs has been producing every single week, and even with those 2 receivers, who I think are definitely in dynasty league, I mean, as valuable as could be in a dynasty league, I just think that's a tough trade for a redraft right now.
You right? I'm gonna go and put in something else.
But yeah, I mean, dynasty, whew, son.
Yeah, if it's a dynasty, and that's what I'm in another league right now. I went and picked up Josh Jacobs, and I have Chris Carson as my 2 running backs.
Actually, I was going to ask you guys about that very same matchup with Aaron Jones. In a half-point PPR league this week, would you rather play Aaron Jones versus the Panthers or Chris Carson at San Fran?
The weakest point of Carolina's defense is their rushing defense, and they play horrible on the inside zone scheme. Aaron Jones that's what they run, inside zone scheme. They lost Mr. Addison to IR recently, and he was a really good run defender there in Carolina. Now it's kind of rearing its ugly head. For some reason, Carolina, it's like after they lost Thomas Davis, it seems like they can't stop the run. He was one of the really good run defenders there. Kuechly can run with tight ends, running backs, but it looks like he gets lost in the gap sometimes. So in my opinion, I would play Jones. That's just me.
Aaron Jones versus Carolina, Nick Chubb versus Buffalo.
That's Aaron Jones. I don't think Nick's going to get much against Buff.
Aaron Jones versus Carolina, Zeke versus Minnesota.
I'm going to take Zeke against Minnesota on that.
Okay, just had to get a gauge. That's all.
No, because Carolina's defense is focused on pass defense. They can have their corners locked down with Dante Jackson and Bradbury and be able to have them man-on-man. But for some reason, even with men in the box, they can still have trouble with the rush defense. I don't get it. It's just how it's been all season long.
Yeah, it is very strange. They are the 5th worst fantasy defense right now when it comes to running backs, giving up 23.8 points per game.
Also, I'm going to add this. LaFleur is the type of coach to rebound. He doesn't make the same mistake twice. And if you look at the Philly loss, what did they do after they were in the red zone and they passed so much?
Oh, don't even bring up the Philly loss.
No. I'm using an example. Look what they did in Dallas the next week. They ran the ball down the throat of Dallas. About that hyped up front 7.
5 minutes until we're taking our next break.
So that's my argument is I feel like Packers are going to come back and you're going to see a rushing offense with Jones that is going to be heavy on the carries. You're going to see a lot of receiving opportunities as well, I think, for both backs. But I think Jones gets the majority of the carries.
Are we ever going to see again, and maybe I missed it this past Sunday, more of both backs on the field at the same time, or is that not something they really like to go to?
I mean, they've done it before. I mean, in the Raiders game and the Kansas City game, Jay, how many times did we see Jones and Williams on the field at the same time, using them as a double threat? There was plenty of times in there.
A lot, and it was still the ball was going to Jones most of the time, and they were doing the little jet sweeps and shuffles. But then, like the third or fourth time, just to give them something to think about, they did give it to Williams. But most of the time, it was Jones in motion, and that's how he got that little stupid. They accounted for a touchdown pass. It was that Oklahoma touch pass when he was doing the jet sweep motion.
All right. Well, the last name I wanted to bring up as far as guys I think you should trade away is Kansas City Chiefs running back Damian Williams. Mr. Williams is coming off a very big week against Minnesota. He took 12 carries for 125 yards and a touchdown. In this muddy backfield, guys, where it seems like anyone can take the ball at any one time, this guy breaks off a long run. It seems like he gets the next few carries, and then he duds out, and they bring in Shady, and then the same thing happens with Darrell Williams. So Damian Williams is a guy that I think, because he's on a hot offense with Patrick Mahomes coming back, and, recent bias works as much as ever in fantasy football as it does anywhere else. So I think Damian Williams is someone you guys, all of you, should be looking to trade away right now at his maximum value.
Agreed.
Yeah, I just don't think he's got a stranglehold on that job by any means. As much as Andy Reid has used one back for the most part in his history, that just has not been the case this year. So that's it. Those are the guys I think you should trade away. 3 running backs with bad schedules and bad situations where they're splitting time: Melvin Gordon, Aaron Jones, and Damian Williams.
Do you think that DJ Chark is going to get even more of a look at number 1 wide receiver because Foles is back?
It depends on Westbrook's health. I think Westbrook and Foles have a little bit of chemistry, and that just goes back to Foles and how much he threw to Aguilar in his days in Philadelphia. He really has a connection with the slot position. So I think that Westbrook eventually is going to become the most valuable Jacksonville receiver under Foles. But, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think Foles did break himself throwing that touchdown pass to DJ Chark. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad sign that Foles is back for Chark. We just got to see him do it, man. It's been exciting riding that Chark train, hasn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, I know the Minshew love Chark. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But, I mean, I still think that, Chark caught the touchdown pass when Foles broke his shoulder. So, Chark, it looks like he does want to go to him in certain situations, maybe in red zone, and I have no problem with that because Chark is a big guy. So it means more points on the board, I guess.
And he's actually that's a good name to bring up as well for trading away, especially in your situation where you have Evans, you have Hopkins. If Chark's value is to decrease under Foles, then this might be the best time to capitalize on his value and get maybe a lower tier running back, maybe talk to the Carlos Hyde owner or something like that and see what they want to get DJ Chark.
Yes, sir.
Man, can you believe that play? Carlos Hyde is streaking down the field, has the ball in his right hand, and it gets knocked out at the goal line. And then they did him dirty the rest of the play calling. They had Deshaun Watson with the play action. Nope, you're not getting it, Hyde. I'm putting it in your belly. I'm pulling it right back out, and I'm throwing a touchdown pass.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde is Carlos Hyde for a reason. There's wasn't
still had a big day.
Much a tree. Yeah, but I don't know. I've never been big on him.
Man, he was a beast coming out of Ohio State, but you just never know. It brings me back to What was his name that played on the Cardinals for a little while there?
Beanie Wells.
Beanie?